Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MWC City Council meeting for June 28th. If you want to address council, we do have sign-up sheets for you to do so if you missed that opportunity. In lieu of that, would you please stand for invocation and pledge allegiance? Mr. Sullivan.
Would you bow with me, please? Gracious Heavenly Father, we're blessed to be in your presence this evening. Father, we give you glory and honor for this occasion and for these men and women who have dedicated their time and energy to serving on this council. Father, we ask that your blessing be upon them this evening, blessing of wisdom and peace and discernment. Father, I ask that you be with each of them tonight. Father, thank you for those who serve this great city in a professional way. The many services that we provide, everything from activities in public works and city hall and public safety. We thank you for those dedicated men and women, Lord. Father, we thank you for the men and women who are serving this country, stationed all over the world tonight, away from family and families sacrificing them being away, and we just ask a blessing upon them. Thank you for this great nation that we're blessed to live in. Father, help us not to take that for granted. Thank you for the blessing of your Son, Jesus, the blood that was shed on our behalf, and the forgiveness from sin as a result. We ask this in your Son's holy name. Amen.
Please join me with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to enter into our, we've got some community-related announcements. Anyone around the horseshoe?
Just got a couple I'd like to make. With the 4th of July holiday next week, our sanitation and recycling service, if you receive those on Monday, you'll receive those on Wednesday. Our transfer station will be open this Saturday. This Thursday from 11 to 1 to 1:30, we will have a special patriotic concert taking place in Charles J. Johnson Central Park down in Town Center. So maybe go buy yourself a sandwich and go listen to some really nice music. 4th of July celebration will take place out at Joe B. Barnes Regional Park. And then also this Sunday evening, we will start our Sunset Cinema events taking place on Sunday night, every Sunday night through the month of July. The movies will start approximately about 9 o'clock in the evening. That's all I've got.
Go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Can you all hear me? Okay. Thank you very much. Apologize for that. Miss U.S. Black Ambassador 2016 pageant will be here in Midwest City during July the 2nd through the 4th. And the CEO of this particular, the founder, she is a graduate of Carl Albert. Her name is Patrice Harrison. And so this particular pageant is generally held in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, and she brought it back to her hometown, which is Midwest City, and her being a graduate of Midwest City. So if you have a chance to, you'd like to participate, the tickets they have, I believe it's like a 40% discount up to the 1st of July, and it's going to be quite an event. It's going to be here in Midwest City, and some of the other cities are very jealous that we have such a huge pageant here. I'm very proud of her coming home with this pageant, and I hope everyone have a chance to attend.
It's going to be at the Reed Center, is that correct?
Yes, correct. And also, it's going to be at something happening at Road State, but you can go onto the website, Miss U.S. Black Ambassador, and it'll give you so much information. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one too. Part of the process that we've been going through with the study on the fire department is there's a community meeting coming up in public is welcome to attend. It'll be July 7th here in the council chambers, and that'll give you an opportunity to express any concerns you have about the fire department and their operation in the city at the time. At that time, it'll be at 7 o'clock on July 7th.
Any other announcements? Okay, we do have a proclamation. We're very blessed in Midwest City to have some of the finest infrastructure as far as water and sewage in the country. And we're going to do a proclamation on our water tonight. This is Mr. Janchek. He's director over our public works and water systems, and been with us for a long time, does an excellent job. And it is, whereas Water's Worth It Month is being promoted by the Oklahoma Water Environment Association to help increase Oklahoma communities' awareness of our most precious and natural resource. And whereas Water's Worth It is a campaign by the Water Environment Federation to help questions and answers and how we can correct our actions and attitudes on the things that we most value in connected with water. Whereas Water's Worth It Month is one of many ways to help promote the protection of Midwest City's water by increasing education efforts and how to conserve, protect, and reuse water, and encourage programs for school children to teach them the value of water. Whereas Water Worth It is, number one, respect is our communities. We are built on water. Number two, clean water is everyone's responsibility. Our health as water is life. Our future we deal with in aging infrastructure, and our passion we find in solutions for the 21st century. And whereas the protection and conservation of Midwest City's water improves the quality of life of having a cleaner and more abundant supply, both now and in the future, reduces the cost of water and wastewater treatment for everyone. I therefore, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do declare the month of July 2016 is Water Worth It Month.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll enter into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the members of the City Council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed on the consent agenda does not meet with the approval of all council members or members of the audience wish to discuss a proposed item with the council, that item will be removed and heard in the regular order.
Mayor and council, we would request that we remove items C4, C23, and C31.
Move to approve all of the remaining consent agenda items.
I have a motion
Second.
and I have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
C4, discussion consideration of approving a 0.05% cost of living increase effective July 1, 2016 for all employees not covered by a collective bargaining agreement, and expanding longevity pay to be paid for up to a maximum of 30 years of service. We had a Scrivener's error on this. It should have been actually 1/2 of 1% or 0.5%. And so that is what we are recommending this year.
That's for the COLA, right?
That would be for two changes. One would be for a COLA. That is on top of merit increases for those employees that are eligible for merit increases. And and then the expansion of longevity from 27 years to 30 years.
We have some of the best employees in the world. I'm so glad we have them. I'd like to move to approve this item with the amendment, changing the COLA from 0.5 to 1%.
I'll second it.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. C23 is discussion and consideration of canceling a contract with Portable Restroom Trailers LLC in the amount of $47,870 and awarding a bid and entering into a contract with Comforts of Home Services, Inc. for fabrication and purchase of a 10-station mobile restroom trailer in the amount of $49,731. This item is not necessary. We would recommend that the item be struck. Mr. Sullivan was successful in getting the portable restroom trailer delivered to our community within the last couple days.
Make a motion to strike.
Second it.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes carried.
And item C31, discussion consideration of accepting a permanent trail easement from the Department of the Air Force for the construction of the proposed trail system located along Southeast 29th Street from Air Depot Boulevard to Sooner Road, located in the southwest quarter of Section 9, Township 11 North, Range 2 West of the Indian Meridian, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. The legal description on this easement was incorrect. Instead of it being Section 9, it needed to be Section 16, and so we would recommend approval of acceptance of that with the revision from 9 to 16.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Now moving into discussion. First discussion item is PC 1871, public hearing with discussion consideration of approval of a resolution for a special use permit to allow the use of a group care facility in the R6 single-family detached residential district for the property described as a part of the southeast quarter of Section 25, Township 12 North, Range 2 West, located at 1205 North Post Road. The proposed use is for transition home for women recently released from prison. The area of request is approximately 75 feet in width and a depth of approximately 410 feet for a little bit over 30,000 square feet. The size of the home is approximately 1,100 square feet. This is a public hearing.
Anyone in the audience wish to address this particular item?
You give us your name and address, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Kathy Peacock. My address is 12799 Twin Pines Lane, Choctaw, Oklahoma.
Welcome, Ms. Peacock. Go ahead and relax and tell us what's on your mind.
I feel like there's really a need for transitional living for women coming out of prison. You know, Oklahoma incarcerates more females than anyone in the whole world per capita. And in this home, I could give these women, I could give them the support they need coming out. The difference in their success is having the support. Without the right support system, their success is way down here. But with the right support system, it's way up here. And because of the ministry that I'm a part of, that's what we do. We put spiritual families around women who have come out of prison that give them the relational, emotional, and spiritual support as they transition back into society. and that makes the difference. I did 9 years of incarceration, and I kept seeing women come back, and I couldn't understand why these women kept coming back. And I finally realized that it was because they didn't have the right support system. And so that's what I want to give them in this home. I want to help them with the right support system so they can succeed and not go back to prison.
Well, thank you for coming tonight and sharing that with us. I will even extend an open hand that if you need anything from the city during your endeavor, please let me know. I concur with you. We have to do something with the recurrence rate of not only women but men going back into prison, and this is a good start. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Does any of the council have any questions?
Yes, I do. I want to ask, you mentioned support spiritually. Is there other support you would be
Yes,
giving these
yes, there
women?
would be other support systems. Because of the ministry that I'm involved in, we're teamed up with like Life Church and some other churches that are in this area.
Okay, with Life Church?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of the support systems come from. All the support systems come from the body of Christ. It comes from a church that is willing to help, a church that's willing to give. All of the support systems come from them. The women will also have support systems like NA, AA, Celebrate Recovery. Those are some other things that they will be required to be involved in, along with the church.
Great. I know Life Church is a pretty huge church, so I'm sure they have several entities they probably can assist you with. And also, I would like to, have some type of update to see how that's going. I would like to, you to stay in touch with the city.
I would love to
Let
do
us
that.
See
Yeah.
what progress, how well it's going, and as Samara extended, what we could do to assist. I do know, have knowledge of women incarceration in Oklahoma. It is a large, a very large number. I know that. It's a very large percentage.
It's a large percent.
So the reason I was asking, want to just expand on what support you're giving. I do believe in the spiritual. I think that's great, but I was just wondering what other support was going to be extended to the women. So.
And it'll be things to deal with the drug issues, because it's like 90-something% of women that are incarcerated is drug issues.
Ma'am, I just had a question. You said that you partnered with religious institutions, so you yourself aren't a religious institution, but you're partnering with those other groups to help out from time to time. Is that right?
This is my home will be faith-based, and what I'm a part of Stand in the Gap Ministries, which is a ministry that's what the focus is. I do re-entry in prison, and so I'm able to handpick women to come into my home, women that are ready to change, that want to do something different because of the ministry that I'm involved in.
And this is your home that we're talking about? So
Yes.
You live there, you'll be there all the time?
I won't be there all the time, but there shouldn't really have to be anyone there all the time. I will be there.
I mean, you'll be living there full time, though, is what I meant.
I'll be in part of the time I'll be there, and part of the time I won't.
Gotcha. I didn't know if it was your residence or not. That's what I was asking.
And I will stay there part of the time. Part of the time I will be living in the home, but I won't be there every night.
I was trying to figure out how it worked. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions for you, and I concur with what the mayor said, and you just touched on it. Do you control the ones, and it's kind of a two-part, do you control who comes there, and are there crimes that you won't bring into the house, somebody getting out of the pen?
Yes. Because it's a really big thing for me to try to get mothers and children back reunited, there may be overnight visits with children. There cannot be any sex offenders in the home. Not that sex offenders need some place to go to, but they won't be in my home.
Violent offenders?
Depending on what the violent crime is, there could be someone with a violent in their jacket.
So how many women will be staying in this home?
3 to 4. So it's just a small home.
Ma'am, will there be someone living in the home to manage the facility?
I will live in the home part of the time. I won't be there all the time. I will be there a lot of the time. I won't be there every night. But the women shouldn't have to be managed like that every night. They're in transition. They shouldn't have to have someone over them like they did when they were in prison.
So they'll still be on parole or probation.
Some of them could be on probation, and some of them could have discharged their sentence. It'll vary. Some of them might be on ankle monitor.
What do you anticipate the average stay?
I would like for them to stay a year, because the spiritual family that will go around these women, that's going to last for 1 year. So I would like for the women to stay a year. All of them will not stay a year. They just won't. But that would be the goal.
Well, thank you so much
you.
for coming and talking to us tonight, ma'am. The chair will entertain a motion.
Discussion before we get going. If there is any, absolutely.
Yeah,
Just amongst us here, I had a transitional house program in my ward, and I got a good number of calls because there wasn't someone there at all times, and that particular house ended up causing some problems in the neighborhood. And so while I am, of course, in support of women in incarceration, want them to get back on their feet, I have this real big concern that I'm hoping maybe we can all talk about up here before we make a decision. I'm real worried about it, just having seen what's happened in my ward.
is there any discussion from the public that would like to come forward and talk?
That's all.
Let me mention that this is a special use permit, and so, and by the nature of the special use permit, the ordinances that govern it, the council may choose, if it's, they're interested in doing this, is to placing some conditions on that special use permit.
Can we put a timeline where 6 months from now or a year from now, we re-look at this? And if they've met and they don't have the criminal issues that Daniel was worried about, that it comes back to us for a renewal, and if there's a criminal area problems, we can not renew it?
I don't know if you could do that. I think you might ask for a report.
But I think once it's passed, it's passed, and
Right.
it's done. We can't touch it again.
Because perpetrators have to be able to rely on their
The decision of the government.
I would feel a whole lot more comfortable if there was somebody that was in, and I support it. But
Ma'am,
I think I'd be a whole lot more
is there
comfortable with
somebody that you could have that
being
stayed in there every night?
Every night? I guess if I had to, I could stay in there every night until I trained another person to do that, until I trained someone else to be in the home as a house mom. If that was a requirement, I could do that. I could stay every night if I needed to.
I personally would feel comfortable if maybe we could sit on it for a week or two and try to think if this is what's best for the community. That'd be my stance. I don't know how y'all feel over there. I just want to make sure we take the right decision and not, like I said, once we open that door, we can't go back.
Come back up.
Was the home, was it with men? Because there's normally a difference in the way that men and women act in a home. Well, there is. I'm serious. There's a difference. Women are normally easier to manage than men.
I believe there were two. I don't remember what each home was off the top of my head right now, to be honest with you.
The one you're talking about was a transitional home for men.
Which one was
dealt
that?
with it.
Ma'am,
I dealt with it several times. And,
Do you remember which one that was? I'm thinking of two in my head. I remember which area of town it was on.
the address
Oh, the address.
escapes me right now.
No, I didn't mean the address. I didn't know if it was the north part of mine or the south part. It's no big deal. I'll look it
No,
up.
it's the north part of your ward.
Okay, yeah.
And through law enforcement efforts, we were able to remove them.
And I want, we want that,
So-
but as busy as law enforcement is, I don't want to create something where we have to have law enforcement. I'd rather law enforcement be out catching the bad guys, not, bringing more. That's my concern at least.
what ward is this? What ward are you looking, what ward is this, is your property in? This
I'm
property?
sorry, I didn't
I
understand.
was asking, what ward is your property in?
It's in 3.
Three.
In 3?
Then I make a motion to table it until Rick's back because it is his ward.
Second motion.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Peacock, what's going to happen is the councilman that over your ward is absent tonight. He'll be back for the next council meeting. We're going to table this for right now.
Okay.
And for our next council meeting, we would like for you to come back. And we have your contact information, and we will make sure that you have the opportunity to come back before council.
And
I have a motion and I have a second.
Can I say one thing to her real quick? You've done these houses before yourself,
I have not, this is my first home.
okay, but this Step in the Gap group has.
The Stand in the Gap what?
What's the name of the group, Stand in the Gap?
Stand in the Gap.
They've done these homes before, correct?
Stand in the Gap is that we team up with transitional homes.
So what I'm hoping that you can do when you come back in 2 weeks is bring some anecdotal evidence as to the number of women that go through in a year, their recidivism rate if you follow, the amount of crimes that were committed in these houses, so we can look at what a past has done, so we can have a better understanding of this program.
Okay, I can tell you that the women that have gone through the Stand in the Gap program and had the spiritual families put around them, the recidivism rate is 3%.
Is there anyone you can bring from that group, bring them here and speak, and also elaborate on what you're...
It's possible.
Okay.
Actually, most of them are in Tulsa. I'm
Oh,
I'm the program manager of the Oklahoma City area. The main office is in Tulsa, but I'll see what I can do.
Well, if you can, just bring us a little data. I mean...
I can bring a lot of data to you.
Okay, just give us something to look at, because the councilman for that ward is not here.
And if you could get it to the city the Thursday before the council meeting, they could include it in the packets that we would have, so we could actually theoretically have it read
Okay,
and be ready to go when you get up here in 2 Tuesdays from now.
okay.
So, let me ask just another question or two. How many residents do you expect to stay in the facility?
At one time,
Well, yeah.
3 to 4, and it may not, sometimes it doesn't work and they end up leaving.
I understand. I'm just thinking in terms of trying to establish some conditions that might calm some of the fears. And so putting a limitation maybe of four residents, I mean, is there, it's an 1,100 square foot home, so it's got 3 bedrooms. So, and I would assume one resident per bedroom.
Normally in transition homes, there's 2 women to a room.
Okay.
They share a room.
Okay. So is it 3 bedrooms?
It is.
Okay. So would you be thinking 6, or would you thinking?
No, because 1 bedroom will be for me to stay in.
Okay.
That's what 1 bedroom's for.
Okay. So it would be a limitation of 4 plus the manager.
House mom.
House mom, yeah.
And I would assume that most of these folks will have their own form of transportation.
Most of them won't have driver's license when they get out.
They won't. Okay. So does the garage, is it a 2-car garage, single-car garage? The
It's-
driveway width, I mean,
It's a 2-car garage, but it's not like this. It's like you can drive 1 car in and then drive another one in behind it. That's the way it's set up.
okay. Because sometimes you get too many people coming to the place and they end up parking wherever, and that begins to create problems. So,
Yeah, they don't normally have driver's license coming out, and because of the expense to get the driver's license back, a lot of times it's a long time before they're able to get a license.
So you're in an area that doesn't have any public transportation.
There is public transportation, but it's a mile away.
Okay.
Yeah. It's on Douglas.
Thank Thanks again, Ms. Peacock. We'll be getting in touch with you. I do have a motion, and I have a second on the floor. All in favor? Well, take no action, or?
No,
All in favor to table this motion?
Aye.
All opposed? It's tabled. Next item.
Item D2, PC 1872, public hearing with discussion consideration of approval of the replat of the south half of Lot 9 and all of Lot 10, Block 12, in the Point City addition located at 604 South Marion and in Section 6, Township 11 North, Range 1 West. The applicant or the owners of the property is Merlela Jean Allen.
Merla, Daddy was
Merla,
Merle.
I'm sorry.
I am too.
Proposed use is to create two single-family residential lots from one lot. You want to give your name and address and exactly what you are proposing to do?
Okay. My name is Merla Jean Allen. I live at 701 Fairlane Drive in Midwest City. And I'm proposing to do a lot split for some property that I own and be able to put two houses virtually on what now has one house on.
Will you be keeping, I'm sorry, my thing's not loading real good. Is it the house that's currently on it, will that be the first house and you'll build a second house, or are you wiping that and making two?
Plans are not up in the air right at the moment.
Fluid
but-
plans.
Right.
Gotcha. How big is the lot? Billy, do you have the number there? Sorry, my
You-
thing's
you-
not loading.
The current lot has a home on it right now, correct?
Mhm.
And so you
It's
would
on-
probably.
It's on the south side,
Right.
and then there's enough.
0.4463 acres.
Gotcha. Cool.
And it does have public water and sewer available to it. And
Correct.
so
Mhm.
it can be split and another home constructed on it and meet all of our codes.
I'm so happy you're building new houses. Thank you for building houses in Midwest City. I move to approve.
Where is this located at?
This is in the Point City addition. It's going to be between Post and Westminster, just south of Reno.
We do have a motion on the floor.
Anybody else out in the audience who want to talk?
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item D3 is MP-9, public hearing with discussion and consideration of approval of the minor plat of the Fontenot Hall subdivision and granting the requested waivers for the sidewalk and half-street improvements for the property described as a part of the northeast quarter of Section 31, Township 12 North, Range 1 West, located at 1001 North Cedar Drive. This is a proposed use is to create 3 lots. One of the lots will have an existing home located on it, and then there will be 2 additional lots that will be available for development. And as I understand it, the applicants, the owners would like to are not available to be here this evening, but they want to get on a conference call. So Kathy, can you?
This is a first, isn't it? Is this a first on the?
This is a first.
What, number? Phone number?
Do you have a phone? We need a phone number.
It's on that paper that
Not, okay, right here, right here.
Wait, I thought you said they were in Baltimore.
Virginia.
Where are they at?
Oh, okay, but they still have an Oklahoma phone.
Yes.
So I
That's their
just hang up
cell phone, I see.
405.
The cool thing about these phones these days, you can take them with you
Yep,
places.
they
It's pretty neat.
Good thing there's not a cord on that phone, Daniel. She might wrap it around.
Don't worry, she'll find one later, I'm sure.
Okay.
Is this Todd Hall or Harold Fontenot?
We're both here on speaker.
Okay. This is Guy Henson, City Manager, Midwest City, and you're on speaker here in our council chambers.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, we probably need to move the microphone back a little bit.
All this
We
technology.
haven't done this before. This is a first for us.
Been around for about 130 years now.
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, I know. So, we just read your agenda item, and as the owner, is there anything that you want to share with the city council?
Just that we are hoping that this will go through. We're anxious to split the property and make use of it. So if you could, grant the approval, we'd be greatly appreciative.
I have a question for you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Can you tell me a little bit about why you need the sidewalk and street waivers?
Well, I think the Planning Commission had mentioned in the prior meeting that there's no other sidewalks in the area. The other part of the street is undeveloped. The streets are very narrow. The previous submission by Caliber, they had requested that, but none of the neighbors really wanted the street improvements. So we're hoping to not have to do that because we're just doing a minor plat.
Sir, this is the mayor. What's your intended use for this property? What's the overall goal on this split?
Well, the overall goal is to sell off the largest piece to whoever wants to buy it, so that we can then pay off the property, and then we would use the other two pieces to potentially build on.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that has any questions about this particular discussion item?
I have sorry, go right ahead, sir. Come on in.
Fred Hawk, 1302 South Caldwell Drive. I just have a question. This wasn't even on my thoughts tonight, but what they're asking for, what has staff's recommendation been on it? And this is going to go against what my experience has been in the last 5 years with developments and stuff going around me, that we haven't been cutting that kind of slack. So it kind of rubbed against what I've seen happen, fly in the face, if you will, of what some folks have had to put half streets in that, Simmer did some lots, but I'm just saying, what's staff saying?
It's been the recommendation of staff, Mr. Hawk, to approve this.
Is that right?
Mr.
Yes,
Hawk,
sir.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Mr. Billy, you want to?
Well, this has been through the Planning Commission and City Council a number of times, and through that there was some litigation, and it was agreed upon through that they'd be able to split the property into 3 tracts and apply for those waivers, and that staff would agree to those waivers. So I wasn't part of that negotiation on that, so they asked if it could be done, and we can always make the recommendations to Planning Commission and Council, and that's what we've done.
Yeah. Well, I've not seen the piece of property and seen all that stuff that you have. I just have envision on it, and I'm thinking it's just probably bar ditch, and the roads are going off, and no curb and gutter, none of that. It's just maybe, but I've seen this that I thought was a little bit too much to ask people to put a half street, curb, storm drains in. There's not any on the streets, and there now, and now we're going to say, nah, this one we're going to let it slide. So
Mr. Hawk,
typically
I
we
agree with
do.
you. I don't like variances at all. I mean, they need to be used very, very sparingly, because once you do for one, you have to do for all.
well, exactly.
I think another thing, I'm right there with you on that, and you, Mr. Reed, and I'll add to that, the citywide study we did a couple of years ago, I think just 2 years ago, one of the top ranking thing was to have sidewalks throughout our community. That ranked really high, and we're never going to get to the point where we have sidewalks throughout our community if we continue to grant waivers on the sidewalk requirement. I know will be a couple houses here, but then later when they sell the lot, there'll be a couple more, then a couple more, and eventually we'll have a whole street, and it'll be really nice, and they'll have a sidewalk there, and that's the intention of having those building codes. So I don't think I'd be in favor of that, and especially having two sets of
I don't know so
rules.
much about the sidewalks per se. I mean, it's just the storm, if they're gonna have to do, you know, I mean, and I may not be pushing that I'd wanna see storm drains, all that, without, you know, the setting of that, the development, that you could look out that 5 year or 15 or 25 years, you see that far, but.
That's why we have a comprehensive plan that said we need sidewalks on
well,
it and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And to
But you get
clarify,
into issues that run off, that water, the issues we have as those development goes on, and the storm drain, et cetera, that you just gotta look a long ways out there. I said, we've been pretty strict, what I have witnessed over the last, like I said, 5 years, and I said some of it, I would have cut them some slack myself and going, no, that's because we haven't pushed it anyplace else. But anyway, that's just my thought.
And I agree with Mr. Hawk, because one of my projects, we have one road that Mr. Hawk is really familiar with, that there's been a lot of development, a lot of building, there's a lot of concrete, and no storm drains. And
He just remembers the good old days on Sun Valley when I was a kid. He was
but
my neighbor that had sidewalks.
I agree
I've
with
had
what he's saying,
Yeah, you do it.
because I've got pictures of what we're talking about right here the last time it rained.
Oh, yeah.
And to not hold people to the standard everybody else is going to, I think we're opening up a can of worms. I don't have a problem with the lot split, but I think there needs to be some drainage taken care of, and some of the other issues that we're holding everybody else accountable for.
City Attorney, I have a question for you following up on the statement about the litigation.
Yes, sir.
I guess, was it negotiation? I mean, was it like arbitration this went through, or what was Bill was referring to something that there was an agreement?
I think it was a mediation.
Mediation. In that, as a product of that mediation, it sounded like the decision was to grant the lot split and to allow for the application of waivers, not the granting of waivers. Am I citing that correctly? Does that sound right?
Well, and Tim, can you step up, because you participated in this? I think that the issue here was the case that was presented before, that was litigated, involved the creation of about 10 or 12 lots on both Oak Street and North Cedar. Okay, because this piece of property goes from both, runs from North Cedar to North Oak Street. So it was a larger development that was going to create 10 or 12 lots, and the applicant did not want to do any type of half-street improvements, or any type of storm sewer improvements. And so what you have here now is an application to create 3 lots, not 10 or 12 lots. And I guess I would ask the Fontenot's, your intention is to sell parcel 3? Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you anticipate that somebody that is going to purchase parcel number 3 is going to come in and want to develop it similar, in a manner similar to what was previously envisioned?
No, the people that we've had conversations with individuals that's looking really to buy it, to keep it the way it is. I think it's more of a neighborhood situation where they're looking at potentially purchasing the property because they don't want it developed.
So in that situation, what you would end up with would be the 3 lots, and both of those streets, if you haven't been out there, they are narrow residential streets that were developed probably when the property was in the county, and so it is a relatively rural area in terms of the improvements. so.
Yeah, but there's nothing to say that the next person wants to put in a big development. And there's nothing that ties that, and we've been
Well,
told
no.
that before.
Right, but if they were to come in to want to develop it, guess what? They're gonna be coming before you all, because what you've got is parcel one has a home on it right now. You'll create a parcel two, which is one building site, and then if somebody wants to do something with parcel three in terms of subdividing further, it'll have to come back before the planning commission and the city council. And so this waiver, and Billy, correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, you correct me if I'm wrong, the waiver here is granted for this lot split. It would not be granted for subsequent lot splits, or at least I think that would be an appropriate action.
I was thinking it was gonna tie to the property, and so that'd be good to talk about, Ms. Attorney.
Of course, consistency is the most critical thing here. The reason that these waivers are being recommended by staff to be approved is because they would be improvements to nowhere. They would be sidewalks to nowhere. What you are thinking of and what Mr. Hawk is thinking of is that the city is extremely stringent on subdivisions, on residential subdivisions that are being built from the ground up, where raw land is being turned into a neighborhood, so to speak. In that case, the city has been extremely stringent on requiring sidewalks and the street improvements.
And drainage
barrier
improvements.
curbs and those sorts of things. However, this is a piece of property that's just being split. It's not being subdivided. It's not raw land where an entire subdivision is going to be built. It's in effect an island in a relatively rural area of the city. So you would be requesting or requiring curbs and sidewalks where there are no others. And so it would just be, the curb and sidewalks would just be on this little parcel, not even from street to street. It would just be this little chunk in the middle of the block.
But that's why we have a comprehensive plan, is to look forward when these are no longer little rural areas.
Exactly.
And so that's why I'm always hesitant to give a variance for that fact. Yes, a sidewalk there today is a sidewalk to nowhere, but what is it 10 years from now? I don't know.
Well,
Probably time to be replaced.
Our internal policy has always been that if it's a sidewalk that's required but has not been tied on to another sidewalk, or a drainage system that's out in the middle of a field that's not tied on to another drainage system, meaning a culvert or onto an existing improvement, that and they request for waivers, then we'll go ahead and say, yes, it's okay for the waivers. You'll remember back that there's been occasions where we have said, well, it just doesn't make any sense to really put a sidewalk out here. And so that's been our policy, is when we agree to the request and when we've not agreed to them. And we've been fairly open with that to applicants in the past.
Have you ever had a time where you said, okay, we'll grant a waiver, and then thereafter someone develops the lot next door and there would have been a sidewalk to attach to, but there wasn't because you granted a waiver? That's kind of following up on Councilman Reed's concept of looking forward.
The
You know,
bigger
I
question I
think
have
it's-
is, I don't have so much of a problem with the sidewalks, is the drainage.
And it's the same way with the drainage. If you think about it, if we have a flume out there in the middle of the field over one or two lots, and it's not tying on to anything, then you start getting undermining of the drainage flume and starts failing, and then there's a lot of pressure for the city to go out and fix that issue of the erosion and everything that's happening out there. So that's why our policy has been, hey, if this was up north, if it was abutting 10th Street, then we would say yes, definitely that the drainage needs to tie on at 10th and come from underneath 10th and for the length of the property, and the next person would be required to tie on to it. Same way with the sidewalks.
Yeah, but if he sells parcel 3 to somebody that decides they don't want to keep it just for themselves, and they want to parcel it out for 6 more residences, then do we potentially have a problem later on with drainage and everything else?
No, because then it has to come back for
Well, I'm talking about,
revised
we're gonna
plat.
have those two houses there that won't be attached to it.
Right.
So if we add 6 more, we can't go back and tell these two that they need to be. Right? Because we're already gonna, if we split this way and give him all these easements.
Right, and
and
then the two
variances.
would already be split, it would just
Yes.
impact the remainder of the parcel.
If that happens and he sells parcel 3 to, just say he sells it to you and you decide that you're gonna develop it, and they come in and say, well, you've gotta do all this, is there gonna be a potential problem because those two houses up there, they're gonna be messing a little bit with the grade and everything else like that, the water runoff, is that gonna cause any additional issues for looking down the stream of development?
No, because the larger parcel will then be graded to, or if there, or a retaining wall will be required, that will be determined at building permit. If the grades are off, then that can be addressed by their sloping when they develop the larger parcel, or with retaining walls or whatever is necessary to ensure that the drainage is appropriate with all of those, and with the surrounding properties as well.
Mr. City Attorney, so just so I can make sure I'm on the same page with you, if we grant the waivers apply to all the lots, but if anyone wanted to develop lot 3, the waiver wouldn't apply. Because I'm thinking that if we grant a waiver to a property, the sidewalk requirement has been waived.
Would be waived as it stands now, the large parcel. So if somebody built a house on the large parcel and there was no further development, then the waiver would be forever and ever, amen. The only time that you would have an opportunity as the council to reconsider the waiver would be if a current or future owner of parcel 3 came in and requested a minor plat amendment. I almost said lot split, sorry, I almost said lot split, which is what we used to call it. It's a minor plat amendment now to subdivide lot 3 into additional lots.
Gotcha.
And staff would make those requirements, and then we would be hearing an argument from them, look, we're only creating 3 more lots or 6 more lots, and he did it to the north and so on, but.
What if they said there are 2 lots above us, and then we're gonna develop this into 2 more, and then sell that last half acre, then they come back again and say, well, we'll just build the last 2 houses. Now we're at 8 houses, and then we did it 3
There's a
times.
regulation about that in the code.
You can look up on just that map, and you'll see several places where people have come in and done 2 or 3 lots at a time, 2 or 3 lots, and it's
And if
by
we
no
had
means ideal.
if we had would have upheld the ordinance, then we may have had a sidewalk down that whole street, right? Instead of granting waivers each time.
Well, you just gotta remember that this subdivision's been out there probably for 40 years. And it came in when it was in the county, and that's why you have, a 14-foot wide street with bar ditches and none of the improvements that you typically see in a more urban subdivision.
And every builder comes in just about that they kind of specialize in this type of development. They come in and say, well, it's only 2 or 3 lots, and I'm not gonna build for a few years. I might sell off to my kids, or I might do whatever. And that's the case, and then 2 or 3 years later, sure enough, here they come wanting a couple more lots. And piecemealing is not ideal.
I'm sorry, say that last part again?
Piecemealing it is not ideal to way to develop. But at least the way we're doing it, the way we've changed the ordinance, at least we're getting the easements and getting the other things that we need in the future, instead of having to go back and purchase easements and try to get drainage easements and filing them by instrument.
This area probably, if we were to look at the number of short form plats, lot splits, whatever you want to call it, this area has had quite a few, and part of the reason is because in these older areas, when we ultimately end up having public water and sewer extended into these developments, they have acre lots, maybe 2 acre lots, and then they can, with those public facilities available, then they can come in and create some of these additional lots.
Billy, this went to mediation, and you guys agreed in the mediation that you would do the variances, correct? Is that correct?
My understanding was that we would take it to the planning commission and recommend that we do the proof.
You guys were against these variances until you went to mediation. And the only reason you're addressing this is because of mediation, you felt you needed to agree?
That might be kind of a rough question to ask right now.
I'm sorry.
Well, I don't mean rough, I mean like. long-term, it might give some
You know,
trouble.
if you take the sidewalk improvements alone, if you just take those, we would recommend that we wouldn't have a problem with varying that requirement.
You didn't have a problem with it before the mediation?
Well, it was a different development before the mediation. We were talking about, at one time, I think it was up to 16 lots. I think they knocked it back down to around 12. So the conditions changed, and now we're down to 3.
I'll make another comment. Guy hit on it, and Billy hit on it just a little bit ago. That's why I got back up, come up here. I've seen this so many times, and have been involved when this has happened. When you ask to put the sidewalk into, if you will, nowhere, and you want to put these curbs in that they don't tie up perfectly, the surveyors, somebody's made a little boo-boo here or there. We decided we want to curb back, you know what I'm saying, and then we come in with, you said we're going to come in, we're going to put in sewer, water. That stuff, if you're the one that came out of your pocketbook, stand back and look at it, it just gets tore to you know what. You might do it. I've seen it happen within 6 months of a project saying, don't do that because it's on to be cut up because we're coming to the sewer lines. No, you got to do that. Get your final, get your inspection, get all these. So part of me goes back and saying, no, look, I'd want to bow back here saying, why put that concrete and that sidewalk's just sitting and going nowhere? That curb is going to get tore out. Now I'm coming back in on that side of the fence, and that may be where you're looking at. I can see that. You just, and the sewer, you know, it's just gone. You know that. I mean, it just gets changed, and maybe 15, 25 years down the road, it's a whole new development and new streets and everything going in, and all that's getting tore out anyway. So from that side of point, I'd probably be a little on their side, okay? Thank you.
I'd make a motion that we allow the lot split with no variances.
Okay, you have a motion to approve the lot split without the waivers.
Correct. It's okay to do that? We're good to go on that, Ms. Attorney? She's got that eyebrow raised like she's a little worried about that.
It's inconsistent with previous practices, but
It would be lawful.
and apparently it was agreed to in mediation. I don't know anything about that.
Mr. Reed, I'm a little nervous with us moving forward on this because no one's really up to speed on that mediation discussion. And if I recall correctly, we paid a pretty penny on that mediation, right? That's a big one, I think.
The chair would entertain a motion to table it
Well, how
until
about,
we,
well, wait,
do not
you have
pass my motion.
You have a
Well,
motion on the
that's
floor.
what I was talking to you about before I made.
Second, and then we don't make anything on it,
there you go.
and then it can come back changed or any other way later, whereas if we table it, it has to come back exactly like it sits.
Well, but in this case, it has to come back exactly as it is anyway, because that's how it was published.
I think we need
Since
to go
this is a
look at it.
public hearing, the notice had to be published.
I think we need to go look at it personally. Because like I said, my issue
Can I withdraw a motion?
is,
Yes.
I'm sorry?
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, the motion is withdrawn. The chair will entertain a motion to
Move to
table for further information.
Move table.
Second.
Right.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Mr. Fontenot, thank you for, we're going to have to go back and take a look at this.
You have to look at it again.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear a lot of it. So what's the reason?
There is a lot of discussion on, number one, the mediation that led to this lot split. Also, most of the councilmen on the horseshoe have concerns about granting variances and getting us into another situation where we've got a street without any improvements, and we've been inconsistent throughout the city in granting or not granting waivers.
Okay, so when this was mediated, there was the understanding that this would come back and it would be pretty much a done deal, that it had to come back through the motions to be approved. It was approved in 2010, the exact same split that we're asking for in 2010. We just didn't exercise it because we didn't have the funds to pay the main piece of property off, and the mediation was that we understood in the settlement was that we could resubmit what was submitted in 2010, and it would pretty much be approved if there were no neighborhood disconcern.
Well, Mr. Fontenot, I'm sorry somebody made that promise to you. There's no guarantees in municipal government. We have a virtually new council on the Horseshoe currently that is totally unfamiliar with the mediation, totally unfamiliar with some of the issues that regarding your piece of property. That's not to say that we can't come back and improve it or approve it, but we do need to take a look at what has been done in the past before we move forward with any movement on your request. The motion or the suggestion has been tabled for right now. We'll be coming back for further information and be in contact with you.
Okay, so when would be the next time this would be heard?
It'll be heard on July 12th.
July the 12th. Okay.
Will you be
Well, thanks.
will you be in town on the 12th?
I live in Virginia, and I'll be on business travel. I guess I could be available on phone from Denver. I'm going to be in Denver on business travel.
Okay.
Just for the record, before we move forward, if in my individual perception on the matter, if there was some sort of binding authority in the arbitration, I would yield to the binding authority in the arbitration. If there's not, then of course I wouldn't.
I don't think arbitration can tell me how to vote.
Well, I think it'd probably be a good
Well,
thing.
actually, the discussion is kind of over on this. We need to move forward.
Well, I just wanted to say that for the record, so it's been lodged.
All right, Mr. Fontenot, you have any questions of the council before we close this out?
No, so July the 12th, and at basically the same time, it'll be another vote?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We also have an addendum for this evening. Item D4, discussion and consideration of approving and entering into a memorandum of understanding to extend the current fiscal year 2015-2016 collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters Local 2066 through October 31st, 2016.
Does anybody in the audience wish to address this addendum to the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second. Got a motion to approve and a second. And all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is approved.
New business public discussion.
We now open up for new business. Anyone that wants to come forward and address the council, let me put this disclaimer out. If it's not an agenda item, we can't talk back to you. We can listen to you all night. We can take notes, but we can't address the issues that you come forward with. So we're not being rude, but the laws are what they are, and we can't. If it's not an agenda item, we can't talk to you about it. But we can get to you after council and let you voice your concerns. So if anybody has any new business or discussion wants to come before council, please come forward.
At the last count, Doug Bebout, 13,200 Shirley Lane. At the last council meeting, I brought some suggestions within the budget to try to look at funding within the fire department fund. And one of the more contentious points was the funding of code enforcement for $166,000. Let me first start off by saying that in no way, shape, or form am I advocating to reduce code enforcement's funding, simply trying to provide a suggestion for changing the source of that funding. There was some question about what the actual proposition was that they voted on. The city attorney was requested to yield an opinion. I'm wondering if that has occurred.
He still has it 3 minutes is all he's allowed to speak, right?
Wrong.
Does, his question was, did we get a decision on,
I was just conferring with the city attorney.
So, as I understand it, she has prepared one. I have not had a chance to sit down and review that with her, which I'd like to do before we publicly put it out there, okay?
Can I
And neither
ask a
have any
question though?
council members.
Yeah, like, since, definitely no offense, guy. But as a council, we asked for that opinion.
I understand.
So I'd like to see it before it's released to the public.
I totally agree.
Okay.
Exactly.
I would anticipate probably took, I mean, it's probably a pretty complicated deal, right? A lot of research on that, so. We'll have it next week though, right? Next time we think?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Is that an item that can be put on the agenda so there can be public interaction, or?
If you got enough friends up here who want it on there, I bet it'll get on there, Mr. Bebout.
Okay.
Whoa.
It's not a discussion item, is it?
It could be.
We'll be in contact.
Thank you, sir.
Because it would be an amendment to the budget. If it were on the agenda, it would be on the agenda as an amendment to the budget, which, spoiler alert, would not be in line with my legal opinion. So I would recommend that you review the legal opinion, ask questions about it, get comfortable with it before.
But if a number of council members were against your opinion, wanted to add it, they could do that.
Yes.
Very
Oh,
well.
absolutely, because nobody is required to take my
That's what I'm saying.
advice.
So
It's
if
only-
people here,
I
after
can
we got
only
it,
give you good advice, I
that
can't
group
force you
wanted
to
it, they
take
could put it on there.
Oh.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else?
Any other new business or public discussion? Okay, we'll move on to further information. No action is necessary on those. So I think a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We now open up the Midwest City Municipal Authority agenda. Again, these we call that meeting to order. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the trustees of the Midwest City Municipal Authority, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed on the consent agenda does not meet with the approval of all the trustees or the members of the audience wish to discuss a proposed item with the trustees, that item will be removed and heard in regular order.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. New discussion or new business and public discussion of anything with the municipal authority.
Motion.
Take a motion to adjourn.
Second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We now call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. This, again, a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda, so the trustees of the Midwest City Municipal Authority, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any one item on the consent agenda does not meet with the approval of all the trustees or its members, or the members of the audience wish to discuss a proposed item with the trustees, that item will be removed and heard in regular order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. We have one discussion item.
And that would be discussion, consideration of action to reallocate assets, change fund managers, or make changes in the statement of investment policy guidelines and objectives. No action is necessary on that agenda item. So we have then moved to new business and public discussion. Any new business and public discussion for the hospital authority?
Move to enter executive session.
Second.
I have a motion to move to executive session. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be moving to executive session. We'll be back shortly.